Hello and welcome to a special Wisden review of one of the most extraordinary days of Test cricket I think anyone's seen in a long, long time. The first day of the second India-South Africa Test saw 23 wickets fall. Only once have more wickets fallen on the first day of a Test match, and that was all the way back in 1902. South Africa was scheduled for 55, and then India were cruising at 153 for four. It's not often you can say that. They were pretty comfortable, almost 100 ahead. And then they lost 6 wickets for no runs, which is the first time any team has lost 6 wickets without scoring in the whole of Test cricket. And then South Africa lost 3 more by stumps, but by that time they crossed their first innings total. They trailed by 36, but all of a sudden it's kind of game on again. Uh, I'm joined by Wisden India editor Aadya Sharma. Aadya, what on earth just happened?
Pretty sure I've covered slower days of Test cricket. This was just like one highlights reel of wickets falling one after another. Um, I feel it's a combination of things. I think the most obvious thing was that it was some pretty good bowling from both sides. If you'd say the lengths they were hitting, very tight lines, um, and just that subtle bit of movement. And one thing that was pretty evident was that there was some extra bounce. So a few startled dismissals, players trying to push at deliveries and getting the extra lift, and then finding the ball going to the slip cordon. So yeah, but it's extraordinary how it happened across 2.5 innings.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's a bit of a freak, obviously, but there's quite a lot that you know combines to make something like this happen. I mean, I guess 23 is such a freak that it has to have lots of causes, and we have had seen quite a lot of people talk about the conditions, I guess, and it's a fair question to ask. Spinning tracks. I mean, I personally, and we'll get onto the sort of the entertainment of the day later. I
Yeah.
don't mind a test match like this once every so often. If this were every game, there'd be an issue. But it's kind of part of the beauty of Test cricket that it can last 5 days. It can be, a long way to a conclusion on days one or two. But other people, especially were critical, say of the pitch that England lost inside 2 days in India at the start of 2021. Um, but I mean, the pitch was helpful, no doubt. Sideways movement, bit of extra bounce, but it wasn't as if there was really low bounce, which is often something that you can really attribute to being impossible batting conditions. But I guess yeah, some of the factors were as well the just like the actual the makeup of the two teams, like both going in kind of a bit bowler heavy, and also with just tail enders who absolutely like. I mean, especially India's can't bat. Like
Yeah.
if ever a team was going to lose 6 wickets for no runs, it's kind of this India team against this South Africa attack. And then you also actually there was just a bit of bad luck, I guess. I mean, if you want to call it bad luck, but nicks down the leg side. Also, just in a very high standard of catching as well. I mean, what 20? I think 20 of the 23 dismissals were caught, and there wasn't a single drop catch in the day. That's
Yeah.
pretty extraordinary too. Um, and it's weird as well because when people are critical of batting and they say T20s influence in this way or ODI cricket's influence in this way, it's normally because batters get out playing attacking shots. And there was the odd player who tried to cut a ball and chopped on or edge behind. But actually, it felt like the dismissal of the day was kind of the almost the tentative defense, right? Like and
Yeah.
defending. I think that was the thing is defending balls maybe that weren't needed to. And as you said, extra bounce was the thing. But even the balls that weren't bouncing extra were still bouncing a lot. And I'm not a test batter. I've never faced anything at 90 miles per hour, or even 80 miles per hour, or even 70 miles per hour. But it did feel odd that there just weren't that many leaves being played, and especially when the batters that had any amount of success, Rohit, Kohli, Gill, they were able to take toll of really, really full bowling because it felt like if you were going to try and hit the stumps, get LBWs, you had to go really full because we saw some get overturned because of the bounce that was
Um,
coming through.
yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, we talk enough about batting Test cricket. Let's focus on the bowling because some of it was extraordinary high class, and I guess the place start would be Mohammed Siraj, who does this sometimes, doesn't he? He takes, he blows hot and cold, and when he blows hot, blows very, very hot.
Yeah, he's so much of a rhythm bowler. If he's hitting that length, right, he can really just crack onto that and just continue it in a in a rhythm in a spell. So I think one thing that he always had was that good in swinger, and over time he's developed just a bit of movement away from the pitch as well, away from the batter as well. You can see how he's working with the seam as well, so rolling his fingers around at times, and when he's really in form, you can see that he's consistently hitting the lens right. So this particular spell is sort of an indication of how much Siraj has grown over the last 2 3 years as a test bowler. Um, but yeah, I mean, he really was on song today.
He didn't get the headline figures, but I was really impressed by Mukesh Kumar. I mean, he made a test debut in the West Indies, but probably can take a huge amount from those games and slightly, obviously these were extreme conditions, but those were slightly alien conditions that you don't see that much of in Test cricket as well. But he looks like he's got quite a lot of ingredients to be a pretty handy Test bowler. Obviously, with the pitch
Yeah.
because of the conditions, but he looked good.
Yeah, he's the kind who can bowl tirelessly, very long spells tirelessly, and he's been around in domestic cricket for 7 8 years. And initially, when he was selected in the white ball squads, there was a bit of surprise because he's known more for his red ball exploits in domestic cricket. So this is where he probably fits better. Obviously, he will evolve as a white ball bowler as well, but I see him being a useful component of the test bowling attack in the years to come. Um, and I think it was Sanjay Manjrekar who had said, that that Mukesh would fit better for this test, just given the conditions, and you could see why. He can hit those lines and he can just like get those slight movement, just the ones that could find the edge. So really useful bowler.
Yeah, it's interesting that actually because of the bounce that was on offer, almost I don't know if some ways that even negates Prasid Krishna's sort of USP because he's tall and he
Yeah.
can get bounce from pitches where other bowlers can't. But
Yeah.
in this pitch, every bowler could. So it's like you'd rather have someone who's nipping it a bit both ways. And I guess that's probably the question for India, isn't it? We're probably coming well, we are coming to the end of that. You'd probably say as their greatest test era, right? That went and won series in Australia and pushed England and India, England and England, and has pushed South Africa, even if they didn't quite get series wins in those places. And it feels like India will always produce great batters. That's what they've always kind of done. But producing that quality of seamer, that can match up with Shami, Bumrah, um, Ishant Sharma, Bhuvneshwar Kumar as well, I guess you'd add to that. That will be the thing that determines if they can be a force in all conditions. And I guess there's a few positive signs there. I don't know. I mean, let's talk about because as extraordinary as South Africa's first innings was, that collapse was something else, wasn't it? I mean, was it 6 wickets and 11 balls? I mean, but yeah, I mean, Ravi Shastri kind of summed it up on commentary in his own specific way with one of the best lines ever. You should go and seek it out because his delivery is something else, and it's the emphasis he puts on the word dump when he says, "If you went round the corner for a dump, India have been bowled out for 153." But that's what it was, wasn't it? It was properly blink and you miss it stuff.
Yeah, it was. I guess as you said earlier, it's this Indian tale that can really produce this kind of a sequence. Um, Given the quality of South Africa's bowling attack, just getting that ball to angle into the batters, you could see how Jasprit Bumrah was so uncomfortable facing that. Prasidh Krishna, Siraj don't really have much batting talent really to negotiate this. So, but yeah, it was bizarre. It was just after a point, it became so predictable. Like okay, there's a wicket. Let's wait for one more dot, and there's going to be one more wicket. So, yeah, bizarre sequence really. Nothing much to really explain in that. It just kept happening one after another.
Mm. Yeah, and then a run out to properly sort of cap off the kind of just it's not a real collapse unless you have a run out in there. What are some things you should mention? I mean, but I found it funny, Tristan Stubbs on debut, he's known as a white ball T20 player, and he's going to play in a test that's about as close to an ODI as you can get in some ways in terms of the length of it. And then also Elgar's last test, and he's out twice on day one. I don't know if, and I guess Stubbs on the first day of his test career out twice. Elgar in his last test out twice. That's quite something too. And it did feel like Uh, it was just a very fun day. Like everyone was having fun. There were lots of jokes being had. Even jokes about I bet South Africa going to drop all these guys for the next test, given the squad they picked for that New Zealand series. Kohli was obviously absolutely loving it. Giving little plans here. I think in the last over of the day did he switch the bails and then Rohit switch the bails as well, or I don't know what was going on, but there was a bit
I
of
saw
a
Kohli,
spark
yeah,
to
I
it.
saw Kohli switch the base and then, just make that face that he does always, like, what happened? I just did that. So, yeah, it was all fun actually. A lot of Kohli meme material that's always there on offer when there's a test match going on. It was really watchable. I think if if I would get the option, I would always prefer a test match like this, in the sense, like, with the bowling dominating. I'm not seeing a collapse of this level always, but just where you see that contest where the bowlers are dominating, it's actually very watchable for me. I really enjoy this sort of a thing. um, I don't know how much everyone else does, but for me it's really quite interesting to see.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens on day two. I mean, I, I kind of think that a batter will have. I mean, I think batters already have had a contribution. If South Africa get skittled out tomorrow morning, then you'd have to look at those three innings from India's number two, three, and four as having been actually just as crucial as any of the spells that have been bowled. But I do sort of feel like there was just so much that combined on day one to make this happen beyond it being just completely impossible to bat. I don't know. How do you see day two, and could there be more than day two panning out, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel South Africa will really have to like, one of them would have to really produce a special knock for this to go into day three. But it would be really something if, another collapse of this effect happens tomorrow. I think it was just like a domino effect today for some reason. It just kept happening. Tomorrow would I expect things to ease up a bit more. Um, I think a few more hours spent in front of the video display, just looking at what kind of dismissals were there. Probably a few more leaves, as you mentioned. But I think players would also have understood what the surface is like. A bit extra bounce is there on offer. So I expect, because the quality of batters on offer from both sides is really high. So I'm pretty sure, it's going to be much better tomorrow from the batting front.
Yeah, and actually,
What do you think?
well, I broadly agree. I think. I mean, India are it, a normal Test match. If a team is batting in the third innings, consider it's going to get harder to bat in the fourth innings.
Yeah.
Trailing by 36, 3 wickets down. You'd say they're a bit behind the game, but
Mm.
they're not necessarily that far behind the game. But South Africa have to get another 150 to set India something that is challenging, really.
Yeah.
And considering that it's Janssen seven, Maharaj eight, that's three good balls, and there will be some unplayable balls, I think, tomorrow that mean that happens. I wanted to mention though just Nandre Berger as well, who got some advice from Kevin Peterson in the first test, saying he was being too nice and saying he shouldn't be smiling at the batter delivering. To look like he'd taken that completely to heart. I think it was after his first ball to Kohli, he stares him down, mimes a throw at him, and then gets the edge. Third ball gets driven for last ball. I mean, there were a lot of passages that were just like almost like a quite in-depth bit of narrative that played out over the space of like half an over or something. Yeah, it's just such a fun day of Test cricket. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. And he also
Yeah, so much to unpack really. I would have to go back to the highlights again to see, so many things I'm pretty sure I've missed, and few others have you must have missed as well. There's so many things to go through again and enjoy really.
and must be this be a tough day to be someone who has to make a highlights package. I mean, what do you do when you've got 23 wickets? Do you have to include? Do you have to include all of them? You're like, well, it's 6 wickets for no run. We can probably just include one or two of them. People
You
get the
just
thing.
copy paste the follow wickets package and make that the highlight.
One thing, I mean, just that people were lamenting, the lack of a third test, and it might well be that this ends up 1-1, but they could, by the looks of it, just start the third test whenever this one ends. And you're sort of about 3 days left. So,
Yeah, there's enough time. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
cool.
think it probably gets tricky from now on. With so much franchise cricket happening. Windows are shortening. It's the reality. You can't escape from that. So
Yeah, we actually discussed this a bit more. If you want less sort of joy at how crazy Test cricket can be and more realism about the fate of Test cricket, we discussed a lot of this on this week's weekly pod. And yeah, I mean, two Test series I really don't like, and I would much rather. I mean, this test is going to end up being sort of quite a good advertisement for 4 day tests because you're going to have all the planning that's been done for the fifth day, and it's never going to get there. And I would much rather have a test series that is 3 4 day tests rather than 2 5 day tests. But that's a probably discussion for another day. But yeah, cheers, Adia, and yeah, maybe chat tomorrow if if we've had another crazy day.